Serious, what is something that most people don't realize is anti-poor? Edit, I graduated with minimal student debt due to the GI Bill. This opinion comes from my sympathies for young people who don't have that benefit. The inability to bankrupt student loan debt. The bankruptcy system was created to encourage economic innovation and growth by providing a safety net to entrepreneurs who take a risk and fail. So why is higher education, a calculated risk that you'll become a more productive higher-earning tax-paying citizen, not considered as honorable a pursuit as entrepreneurship? Today we also have consumer bankruptcy that goes beyond helping risk-takers, and allows people to spend indiscriminately and get a bailout. If we permit consumer bankruptcy, there are valid reasons for it, then loan debt deserves to be even higher on the list of priorities for a society. Instead, we take young adults at the peak of their working career and imprison them at the bottom of the economy, mired in debt. From a purely business/economic standpoint, it's foolish that we allow this, never mind the moral problems with it. Why should it be a loan at all? The return on investment is statistically great, which means more tax revenue for the government later. The only reason countries like the US don't pay for college is some cultural aversion to anything that looks like a handout, or God forbid the socialism that we already have in other sectors. The big joke with the US not funding students is that your citizens have to pay US income tax even if they move country. Very few other places in the world have a citizenship tax. Income tax is purely residential. So the US is never at risk of losing the money from education investment to brain drain. They still get the benefit if a graduate takes their Harvard degree and gets a job in France. Attention! Serious, tag notice, jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted. https://www.reddit.com/r/wiki/index#wiki_rule_6 in any comment, parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please, contact the moderators of this subreddit/message/compose/?2=r/askreddit, if you have any questions or concerns. Positions of power that pay badly or not at all? Yes. This was the original reasoning behind paying the US president very well, so that honorable people could afford to take the job and leave their farm or whatever. That being said, this is only true to a point. Some of the most corrupt legislatures in the world are very well paid. Nigeria, for example, has some of the highest paid legislators in the world. Actually, they're paid about the same as US federal legislators, but in a much less expensive country. Not saying US Congress people aren't corrupt, but they usually accept deferred bribes in the form of sinecures after their terms. 99% Invisible's episode Missing the Bus pointed out that having only a bus pass or single fare transit system disadvantages poorer people, since they can't pay the total price for the pass at the beginning of the month, but ride just as much or even more than people who can, paying the single fare each time. They suggested a system that allows people to pay single fare, but if they reach a certain amount of trips in a month, rides become free, which is actually what my city did. I really hated having to continually load my transit card, but now I see why it might be helpful. The Vimes Boots Theory of Socioeconomic Unfairness https://www.goodreads.com/quotes/72745 The reason that the rich were so rich, Vimes reasoned. This is spot on. It's wild to think about how expensive it is to be poor. Our entire country's attitude that wealth/success is somehow linked to morality. Been that way since the Puritans landed. It's why so many people are opposed to any form of social welfare or support. They treat poverty entirely as a symptom of laziness, bad choices, and low morals, and ignore the massive systemic issues that perpetuate it. I just had a friend post something like, "How about no stimulus checks?" Instead, no tax is taken out of our earnings the rest of the year. Worker rewarded. Freeloader not. I have been trying really hard to not get mad at people being stupid, thus staying off of Facebook, but I still go on daily to say happy birthday to people I don't like enough to call or text. I ripped her a new one. She's not heartless, just an idiot. The fact that she literally just came off of welfare, which I did not include in my ripping her a new one because I can be nice when I want to and that would be an ad hominem anyway, was not lost on me. But regardless of who posted it, the fact that people think like this is disgusting. Fresh fruit and veg prices compared to rice, pasta, and frozen junk food. I don't know. Frozen junk food tends to be expensive. A bag of frozen green beans or a bag of fresh green beans, at least here, is a lot cheaper than a bag of fries or pizza rolls. The GRE and other standardized tests. The GRE is like $130, $150 to take. I had to borrow money from my folks to take it. It was such a bullshit test too. I remember it costing me around $200. I was an English major going into teaching and I had to spend $200 to take a math test. Seriously? I was testing on math skills so I could get into my master's program in English education. It is literally a money-making scam. The emphasis on extracurriculars and internships in college and job applications. Extracurriculars can be expensive, and teens who need to work to support themselves or their families are never going to be able to compete in that regard. Unpaid internships also give well-off young people, who don't need to spend their time working, relevant job experience, while poorer kids are taking extra shifts at fast food places. Lol story of my life. I was working 20+ hours a week at Starbucks throughout college, so I never had time to do research or internships. I'm in the science field. I managed to get a decent job out of school, but kept running into the same problem. I had almost no research experience. So I could not get a lucrative research job, only clinical work, which is always shitty hours, worse benefits, and worse long-term payoff. Now I'm trying to go to graduate school and I'm running into the same problem. No research experience is a huge detriment and I never had a lot of time to get to know my professors. But hey, I was a shift supervisor at Starbucks, not that academia gives a shit. Although I will say that got me my first job out of school. The woman who interviewed me had been a supervisor at McDonald's and we bonded over the insanity of fast food. ETA is love to take a pay cut. I'd love to find a way to get paid for research in college and afford rent, but I couldn't figure out a way to make it work. I needed to bring in at least $250 a week and possibly getting a research position that paid less than $10 an hour and was 10 hours a week wouldn't not have cut it and would have prevented me from getting the necessary hours to remain a supervisor. Point is, being poor is expensive and difficult. Jobs that are totally full-time, but only hire contractors to get to FTE without those pesky benefits. Sometimes they even charge equipment fees and stuff for things required to do the job. Harkens back to the company's store days. I think it is technically supposed to be illegal for a company to hire a contractor full-time, but for some reason they get away with it. If you have a boss, you're an employee. If you have a client, you're a contractor. It gets taken advantage of a lot by people acting as employers, with workers who don't know better. One big reason is the employer can avoid paying the payroll taxes they would have to pay on an employee and shift it onto the contractor who will be liable for it in the form of self-employment taxes. I have even gone to some shitty job interview when I was young desperate for a job, where they told me I was going to be a contractor and spun it as some big positive. There's truly some shit people out there. Ever travel through a dense urban area with a lot of lower middle class, working poor and regular poor people? Pick a corner in that area and drive around until you find a grocery store. When, and if, you find a real grocery store, not some bodega, try and figure out how easy it is to get to that store without a car. Now do the same thing but replace grocery store with McDonald's or Taco Bell or some other shitty fast food place. This crap gets even worse if you're poor and live in the sticks. In fact, if you don't have a vehicle, your only options are move or starve. Greater than when, and if, you find a real grocery store, not some bodega, try and figure out how easy it is to get to that store without a car. This right here. I grew up in one of these areas. The nearest real grocery store was a 30 minutes freeway drive or nearly an hour or more on the bus. These carnichas, butcher shop, and bodegas were all over the neighborhoods. A lot of what they sold was either from Costco or other grocery stores, and at a high price no less. It sucked going to them since we didn't have a car and they were the only option. There were lots of liquor stores as well. It was a food desert, and the last time I drove through my old neighborhood it hasn't gotten any better. Requiring references and experience for every entry-level job. Essentially you need to have had enough money to do an unpaid internship at some point for connections, etc. This is one of the greatest injustices. You could be the model poor kid, working hard and getting good grades, trying to work your way up, only to hit this barrier. Heck, I had those internships and the entry-level jobs still wanted 5 years of experience. I was 21, so they expected me to be working in a corporate environment when I was 16. Also, the obsession with college degrees. Convinced an old co-worker of mine to interview a kid for Tier 1 tech support. She wasn't going to, even though his tech knowledge seemed solid on his resume. Just because he didn't have a college degree. I pointed out we weren't paying well enough for a college degree anyway. He ended up nailing the interview and was hired. To this day one of the best guys I have ever worked with. Getting the job at our company allowed him to afford junior college and then get a degree from our local state university. So now he has the degree that was originally going to hold him back. Greater than I pointed out we weren't paying well enough for a college degree anyway. So many jobs require a college degree, but they don't pay enough to justify getting one. Paying car insurance in installments. Oh, you don't have enough money to pay for the year? Okay, we'll charge you interest on it while we take the monthly payments from your meager wages because you can't get those meager wages without a car. Insurance companies in Colorado that don't do this, State Farm, Safeco, Nationwide. If anyone out there is needing to pay their insurance monthly and doesn't want to pay more, these companies do not surcharge you for monthly payments. The entire fucking credit system. It is easy. So easy to get money, when you have money. If you are poor and need a small low-interest loan from an established financial institution, good fucking luck. Your only options are predatory lenders who are going to charge a handling fee, plus exorbitant interest because Money Mart knows they are the only option and they can. However, if you have a bit of money, banks basically throw credit at you. Lines of credit, multiple credit cards, and it doesn't stop there. You become the target of aggressive marketing. For things you didn't even think you would need. Hey, want to take out a loan to contribute to retirement savings? Have you considered a loan so that you can invest? We noticed you don't have a mortgage, want one? Banks are willing to throw multiple times what a person with a little bit of money makes in a year at them, however, won't loan a poor person a fraction of their monthly wage. Throwing credit at people who would normally be denied is a root cause of the 2008 housing bubble crash. Securitizing shit assets was the problem, not poor people. UK, pay-as-you-go gas and electric. If you can't afford to pay quarterly, you get charged more for pay-as-you-go top-up. Can you explain what pay-as-you-go is? In the US, in Florida at least, you're charged based on how much you use. So my last billing cycle I used 579 kilowatt hours, which is charged at $0.07328. So my cost for the electric portion of the bill, there are other charges like water and taxes, came to $42.43. In the UK, if you're a really low-income person and can't get credit for utilities, consume first and then pay for what you've used, either by fixed direct debit or whole quarterly bill, have to go to a shop and put money on account up front for gas and electricity. When the money you put on is up, you get cut off until you put more on. Used to be a physical meter in the house you had to put cash in. Generally the cost of gas and electricity when you're on this tariff is considerably more than you'd get if you could shop around for a normal consume first, pay later arrangement. It's a shitty deal where being poor means you pay more for something essential than someone with plenty of money. Requiring a doctor's note. Gotta love sticking a $200 doctor's bill on top of 4 days missed income because you got the flu. Unpaid internships. I personally feel that if you're making a profit you should be obligated to pay your interns. If someone's doing work for you, you should be obligated to pay them, in general. Tell that to the school system. Student taught for a full year and didn't get a dime while trying to wait tables at night to pay for school/rent/food. Wake up at 5 a.m. and do it again. Awful. Rent to own stores. They prey on uneducated people with poor money management skills by convincing them it's smart to take something home today and pay a fee every week plus interest for many months. They are banking on the fact that people won't realize they are often paying a lot more over time than they would if they saved the money by themselves and bought it outright somewhere else. I had a friend who fell victim to them regularly even when I tried explaining it every time. It wasn't odd for him to rent a TV, console, or laptop and end up paying $100 or more than the thing was worth brand new. There were even a few times he couldn't keep up on the payments and had to return it, so they got to keep whatever he returned and all the money he had paid them up until then. These places are so gross. My neighbor in college was the repo man for a rent-a-center, and if the item he repoed was almost paid off he'd just make the remaining payments and keep it. Greater than he'd just make the remaining payments and keep it. Keep it himself, delete it. Overcharge bank fees. And they can arrange your account to charge you fees you don't deserve. Example from the article, say you're a student with $50 in your account. You make 3 consecutive purchases for $10 each. That leaves you with $20, but you still need to buy a $40 book for class that evening. You decide to swipe your debit card anyway under the assumption you'll be charged a $35 overdraft fee just once. Since most banks will process largest to smallest transaction, the $40 book is deducted first, leaving the student with $10, then the 3 $10 transactions are deducted. That would the bank to collect an overdraft fee 2 times instead of 1. https://www.forbes.com/site/halatourial/2013/06/11/yes banks are reordering your transactions and charging overdraft fees. https://www.forbes.com/site/halatourial/2013/06/11/yes banks are reordering your transactions and charging overdraft fees. It also impacts deposits. If you deposit money during that time but it's small checks or small bills and not the largest value of the day, they can rearrange it to be at the end. Years ago I banked with 5/3 and was hit with overdraft fees for them taking out overdraft fees. It added up to approximately $500. I ended up paying a little over half because it was my first time. I immediately closed the account. A couple years after, I get a letter about a class action suit against them for overdraft fees. I filled it out and figured nothing would happen. Fast forward another 5 years, I've forgotten all about it, check the mail, and there's a check for $450 due to the lawsuit outcome. That was pretty cool, the push to be cashless. Boom, right there. I was at an outlet mall the other day. Because of COVID, they don't take cash, you have to pay by credit card. Okay, so look Becky, just get your dad's credit card. I had no idea that some people live without bank accounts. I've lived pretty cashless for a while now. The only reason I have cash is because of pesky tollway. Holy shit, they suck. I didn't know it would be so expensive for less well-off people to have digital currency, payday loans. They'll give you the money you need, but the interest makes it nearly impossible to pay off the original loan, so either have to default, or take out another loan, which creates a vicious cycle that can be hard to get out of for someone who only makes minimum wage. not saying that minimum wage jobs are for students. If they're for students, then why do they hire adults in the first place? I used to have a co-worker who would go on every day about the greedy minimum wage workers who want the minimum wage raised. She kept insisting places like McDonald's hire teenagers and they're expected to get better jobs when they get older. I asked if she wanted McDonald's to be open during school hours. She certainly did. It was her favorite breakfast, and dagnabbit if prices went up a nickel she'd riot. The lottery. As someone who has been dirt poor, the relief of being able to daydream about being rich is some comfort. Charity clothes bins. Contents get sold in bulk to poor countries for a very low price so they can be sold locally. Things is, local traders that make clothes can't compete with the volume and low price and get wiped out. Oh, serious question, what am I supposed to do with my old clothes? I've tried to cut down on purchasing new in the first place, but Goodwill is supposedly a bad place to send them. The charity clothes bins are bad. Who do I give them to? I was giving specific items to a local women's shelter, but they only asked for specific items. What do I do with the rest? Find a small, local thrift shop to donate to. They generally have better prices for people also. Value Village charges $15, $25 for a sweater here. You can basically purchase a new one for that. Meanwhile, a small thrift shop has sweaters for $8, way more affordable for those who need. Having everything online at a click of a button is a wonderful convenience for many of us, myself included. For others, it's an insurmountable barrier. There is a huge population out there slipping through the gaps of the system simply because they don't have regular access to internet and mobile phones. Public libraries have been holding it together by a thread for years as the only point of online contact for millions, and now they're being cut way back. Budgets are slashed, libraries closed, equipment outdated, and even if they are able to access a computer, a lot of people don't have the first idea how to use one. It's not just clueless old fogies either, it's including impoverished people of literally all ages and backgrounds, especially in rural areas. Book online, apply online, register online, learn more online, contact us online. So many businesses, services, utilities, news sources, job opportunities, etc. are now 100% digital, and it's simply not accessible. It's also one of the many reasons it's an astonishingly arseholish and tone-deaf thing to judge people living in poverty who have fancy smartphones. It's almost impossible in this day and age to live without some kind of internet connection unless you're already established/comfortable. Your last point is very true. When people are homeless or destitute, they're always told to get a job, but getting a job requires an email address to receive updates on applications, a phone to take interviews on, a permanent address to put on the application, etc. If you don't have a phone, how hard would it be to apply for work when no one can reach you with the employment details? And before anyone mentions the before times, before cell phones, 1. A lot of people had landlines and answering machines. 2. Expectations have changed, and for most things a prospective employer will drop your application if your hiring is inconvenient. Say, you're unreachable a lot because of lack of phone. Got into an argument at work with a guy who didn't want unemployed people to have cell phones. I'm like, how do they get a job then? If you are too poor to take care of your children adequately, the government takes them and pays another couple thousands of dollars per month to do your job. Edit, sorry, I said that foster parents get thousands. I meant hundreds and I exaggerated. However, I think the point still stands. Also, people have pointed out that there are normally other factors, and I would say that those are due to poverty, not the other way around. CPS gets called because your kids are starving? Do you have the money to feed them? CPS gets called because your kids are home alone for excessive amounts of time? Are both parents working excessive hours to try to stay afloat? Not sure where you live. But in America you do not get thousands of dollars a month for fostering a kid. A couple hundred at most. This is why there are people who just collect them and start a sweatshop in their basement. And people don't get their kids taken away just for being poor, there are always other factors. And we never hear stories about smart kids with great potential being moved to better environments. Well, a lot of benches in cities are designed to stop homeless people sleeping on them, so they are forced to sleep on the floor. Also, there's a lot more anti-homeless architecture. Just look around your city and you'll see some of it. 99% Invisible has a very good episode about hostile architecture. https://99%invisible.org/episode/unpleasant design hostile urban architecture/ therapy. All healthcare really. Skilled labor is expensive. The US medical system. Pay enormous amounts per check, can't afford the copay. Edit, bad typing. Legal system and prisons. Yep, the whole bail bond system is designed to keep the poor man in jail, which validates a need for legal slavery, since the logic is, it's not bad. They deserve to be punished through unpaid labor. The prison industrial complex is immoral.